Hey there, Internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of Trevor Trove Gaming. Talking today about all the VR games I played this last weekend. If you caught my Superhot review from Sunday, I mentioned in there that I basically had planned on dedicating like the last weekend to diving into a bunch of VR games. And then I ran into some hiccups, like basically wasn't able to get my my headset and headphones to work until Sunday, so I dove into Superhot instead. But on Sunday, I was able to finally get everything working appropriately, and I dove into Moss, Superhot VR, and Dino Frontier. So I'm going to talk about those three games today. Moss was admittedly the main reason I decided to have this kind of VR weekend. The Moss came out last week, and everything I had seen of the game had me intrigued. And playing through it, I played through it in probably a couple hours, and it is just a very charming game is the word I keep coming back to. You play as you kind of direct. You are the reader in this game, and you kind of oversee and direct Quill, the little mouse. You're basically controlling her with the DualShock, but then you can also use the DualShock to kind of reach into the world and interact with it. And this probably could, to some extent, be a more straightforward platformer in the vein of something maybe like a Tearaway even, but they do a really good job. Every kind of scene that you kind of interact with is a little bit like a diorama, and one of the things I loved was being able to find secrets by like leaning in and looking around the world in a way that you just couldn't do it if it was just kind of on the screen and you're not like immersed in the game. It was a very cute little platformer, puzzler, with a little bit of action, hack and slash kind of thrown in there, and I had a good time with it. It tells a very cute story, very like nice little fantasy tale of Quill kind of finding this power, and her uncle who is basically a keeper of knowledge, goes off to kind of look into how maybe he can like save her from this power, and in doing so, she basically goes after him to kind of save him because he gets caught up in kind of the darkness of the mythos and whatnot. Very very cute little story, charming, wonderful kind of storytelling throughout the game. You're basically playing a little storybook, Moss Book 1, effectively. So you're getting the beginning of Quill's journey, and I very much look forward to seeing how Polyarch, the team behind the game, kind of develops what they've kind of established here and how they kind of take it and run with it. I look forward to seeing them maybe play with a wider variety of enemy types, because you only have really a few different foes that you're kind of going up against, as well as bigger, more intense puzzles, and yeah, I just look forward to seeing. This is a great kind of first step for the bigger story they seem to want to tell, and it is a very not a perfect like bite-sized VR experience, but a very like adequately appropriately timed VR experience. I played through the whole thing in one sitting really, and had a great time. I didn't feel like it was I was spending too long in VR, and at the same time I didn't feel like I was let down by the experience. I'm trying to figure out if I want to go back and try and find all the little extra hidden secrets that I missed. I was catching most of them kind of along the way, but there are certainly a few things I missed along the way, so I'm trying to figure out if I want to really dive back in. And it's a cute, charming enough world, so I might at some point just kind of be like, okay, well, I've got like these 4 or 5 other things I need to track down throughout the game, so let me dive back into it. We shall see. So after that, I and riding high on having played through the main Superhot game, I dove into Superhot VR. I did not make it all the way through Superhot VR, but I did make it through a handful of the kind of intro levels. Very fun, more Superhot, which is great. I love that the use of the move wands to kind of allow for like dual action, dual like holding 2 sawed-off shotguns and just blasting enemies was a ton of fun. I definitely ran into more issues with this one than any other game, where I couldn't get the camera to read the sensors all that well. So and that became incredibly frustrating when you've got enemies kind of slowly moving towards you, because once again, like, the enemies don't move until you move, but in this one, like, I'm having to kind of do this to get enemies to come at me. But if I'm trying to reach like a ninja star that's like right here, just off of the camera, the hand would like fall out of sync or something, and so it would go flying, and I wouldn't be able to adequately or accurately grab the things I was trying to grab. Or even worse was the number of times that I would try and throw something at an enemy and just like the aim was terribly off or something like that. That was frustrating and kind of hurt my experience with the game, I think. But it does, overall, it does a great job kind of continuing on the themes of the original Superhot. And in this one, like, you are, again, kind of experiencing the VR thing. So there are like moments where you get popped out of the game and you have to like grab the VR headset above you and like pull it back down over your head and kind of load up the new levels or something like that. So still a ton of fun, but it was much less accurate of an experience than I felt I was getting with the core game, played on a controller. Trying to maneuver with the Move controllers, at least in my setup, was cumbersome and very inaccurate a lot of the time, which definitely hurt. Also, the checkpointing seemed to be fewer and further in between levels. So I would get through 4 phases of a fight or something like that, but I wouldn't trigger the super hot. So I would end up, dying in the 5th phase or something, and I'd have to go back and replay through the whole thing all over again. So that was another, detriment to that game. And then the last one I played is a game that was probably the favorite thing that I got to see at E3 last year. It was a PSVR game called Dino Frontier. I played it at the PlayStation booth at E3 last year and had a ton of fun with it. It is, if you are familiar with games like Black and White or Populous, kind of PC games, it is a god sim where you are basically, you plop down the buildings, you can pick up the settlers and kind of set them on the things that, like, oh, you want this guy to forage lumber, okay, you set him on the tree and he starts chopping up the tree, and then you can grab the lumber and add it to your stockpile. And the kind of the hook of this game in Dino Frontier is that it is a mashup between like Wild West and dinosaurs. So you're kind of managing this, Western settlement with like a saloon and like a ranch, but the ranch is you can like basically train dinosaurs. You can go out, you can drop a lure out in the world, and dinosaurs will kind of coalesce around it, and you can take your settlers out there and kind of whittle away their health until the point where you can capture them and then train them, and then you've got now these dinosaurs at your disposal. So you can use them to fight off other dinosaurs, you can use them to fight bandits that may come into your camp, and the whole thing is it works perfectly in VR, outside of, again, the same kind of like connectivity issues that I was running into in Superhot a little bit, precision and whatnot. I was running into here a little bit, so I might be trying to grab a little guy kind of out here and move him over somewhere, but like the hand would fall out of range of the sensor, and so it would go like flying further, and I was like, okay, well, I gotta figure out how to maneuver that and get it going. But that kind of game just works so great in VR because the world is kind of your little diorama space, and you can zoom in by like grabbing in and pulling yourself into it, or pushing yourself out, or twisting the world around. You pick up, again, the settlers, you can kind of hold them up and it'll kind of zoom in on them and show you kind of their stats. The game has like basically a mode where you can like, or not a mode, but you look at your watch like this, and it gives you like, okay, here's how much food you have, here's how much processed wood you have, here's your objective, here's the the next thing you need to do. And then they also just play with other little fun mechanics where when you build a new settlement or new piece of your settlement. When you build the saloon, for example, it'll give you kind of the bare bones thing, and then you have to grab a little mallet and kind of hammer it in for a few swats to actually build the thing. Or you can upgrade your lumber mill at some point, and it'll give you a watering can that you can grab the watering can and you can pour it over the trees and the bushes that you've cut down or foraged, and it'll regrow them rather than have to wait for like the occasional rain to do it. You can kind of speed things up there with your godlike powers. So ton of fun. Again, it is a perfect kind of fit game for VR. I'm having a great time with it, and it's just a fun little like mashup of Wild West and dinosaurs. So those are some of the VR experiences I've been having this last week. Ton of fun. Again, I played all 3 on Sunday and was loving my time with each of them. So that's Moss, Superhot VR, and Dino Frontier. Highly recommend all 3 if you have PlayStation VR. They are all certainly well worth your time, and yeah, they're just great, fun, immersive, interactive experiences. So let me know what you think about PSVR. If you have anything I should check out PSVR-wise, I will maybe try and dive into anything you might recommend. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.